actually pulled this off. I just said to John. But if everybody could come over this way, we'd be much appreciative. 125 years ago today, Clara Barton arrived on these adjacent train tracks. And she marched through a flood ravaged downtown Johnstown, which was a lot different from what we're seeing today. But she announced to the general who's in charge of martial law that the Red Cross has arrived on the field. And we're still here. And although her headquarters, the Red Cross headquarters, is no longer up on Prospect Hill, we're still here in this community as we have been for the past 125 years. And Clara Barton arrived in Johnstown to focus mainly on the immediate disaster-related needs of the people in Johnstown. 125 years later today, that's what we're still doing. Food, clothing, shelter, immediate disaster-related needs. In addition to that, Clara Barton's vision that she established during the Civil War, aid and comfort services to the soldiers. To this day, so many years later, we are still true to the mission and to the precedents that Clara Barton set so many years ago. So with that being said, thank you again for being here and welcome. And I'd like to introduce the chairman of the board of directors of the Keystone chapter, John Flatcher.
Thank you. This is my second event for the day where speeches are being given, so we're going to keep this short and sweet. I do want to make some introductions. For all the board members from the Red Cross, please kind of raise your hand and signal who you are. Please go do some heavy lifting on this meeting. We'd like to recognize dignitaries that are here. We have Tom taking my picture, and Doug's here from the county commissioner. We have Brian Barton, we have John Wozniak, we have Congressman Keith Rothis, and also we have Dr. William Lewis, who's Commissioner of Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission, with us as well. And we also have Patricia. Where do you have Patricia? She's the CEO of Western Pennsylvania Red Cross. Thank you for making the trek today. Just a couple historical facts. You know, I've really done a lot of research on Clara Barton, and things that haven't grown up here you never know about the flood in Clara Barton. Clara Barton and I share the same birthday, Christmas Day. So you decide which is the devil and which is the angel. It's up to you. Michelle, don't say a word. She was 67 years old when she arrived here on June 5th. So the reason why we're having this event today is because this is the day 125 years ago that Clara Barton arrived on a train from Washington, D.C. with 50 volunteers, which were comprised of workers, nurses, and doctors. Can you imagine, there was 14 acres of devastation down in this area right here. The flood ran through the barbwire factory, and it handled all the heap of mess down here that had people who were still alive. And many of those people were entangled and trapped and actually burned to death as a result. So some statistics, 2,209 people died that day. Within weeks after that, 40 people died of typhoid, and a lot of other people died from related injuries, but those aren't even part of the body count of 229 people. The people who died represent the largest loss of life in the United States for a natural disaster ever. And it was only surpassed as the single biggest loss of life through the 9/11. 99 families were completely wiped out that day. 396 children perished that day. 124 women, 198 men became widows that day. More than 750 victims were never ID'd, and they're in graves throughout the area. Bodies were found as far away as Cincinnati, Ohio. As late as 1911, the last body from this flood was recovered downstream. To put this in perspective, the wall of water that came down through that valley was 20 million gallons of water. 36 minutes of water flow over Niagara Falls is what that represents. You can imagine the amount of water that came down through the valley. So picture yourself, Clara Barton, 67 years old, 5 feet tall, showing up here and looking at this devastation. Her tenacity, her ability to organize were unparalleled in history. She came in, created camps, created hotels, fed people. She came up with $211,000 in goods, which in those days was a lot of money, and aided 25,000 people in the area with the things that she got. So the feat was not small that she took on. The Keystone chapter of the Red Cross was actually formed in 1917 and is going very well to this day, thanks to the board and the people in the community who have supported us throughout these years. And we pray that you continue to support the folks here. As a sidebar, there's a gentleman in there who's going to be serving you refreshments. Ray, his name's Ray, right? Cody, I'm sorry. Cody is on leave from the Air Force, and he volunteered to pass out the festive drinks on leave because when his grandmother died, he didn't have enough money to get back to Johnstown. The Red Cross stepped in and helped him get back to Johnstown so he could attend that funeral. So he's paying it back by this nice act of kindness. So when you see him, thank you for his service in the Air Force. We do have a nice memento from Senator Toomey. He couldn't attend, but John is here in his stead. And it's recognizes Clara Barton, American Red Cross, on the 125th anniversary of the flood. And it's a commemoration for her vision to provide and help those in need. And it still remains the core mission of the American Red Cross. So we thank Senator Toomey for this recognition today. So without further ado, I'd like to have County Commissioner Doug Langenfeld come up. He's going to give a county proclamation.
Thank you, John. As a 30-year veteran in the United States Air Force, you can't imagine how important the Red Cross is. When you're living it, like Johnstown has lived issues like this, you understand. You really do. But I wanted to put a slightly different perspective on it from somebody who's outside. My wife and I decided that we were going to homeschool our children in a completely different area in the United States, and we got a national homeschooling program. And it shows up, and there's a series of books they want our kids to read. Nine books in all. 3 of those books were all about this community. One of them specifically about the flood and Clara Barton. And so our nation recognizes the history of us here. And my kids at age 6 and 8 realized that not only does this have the natural disaster history that it does, but they talked about, one book was completely about the melting pot and what a great community this is that recovers from things like floods. So the county commissioners, Tom Triesky's here, thank you, Tom, would like to declare a proclamation for the Keystone chapter of the American Red Cross on the 125th anniversary in Johnstown. Whereas America has always been a place of humanitarian action and compassion, a place where people take care of each other and are willing to reach out and take care of others in need, whether they are down the block or around the globe. The Keystone chapter is a true reflection of this desire to put our compassion into action and is characteristic of Cambria County, Pennsylvania. And whereas, since May 31st, 1889, the Red Cross first arrived in Johnstown following the largest man-made disaster in America for more than 100 years to follow. The Johnstown flood claimed over 2,200 lives and left behind substantial wreckage. On June 5th, 1889, Clara Barton, the founder of the Red Cross, and a team of doctors, nurses, and relief workers arrived in Johnstown. The group immediately set up feeding stations and provided unprecedented medical care, sheltering, and relief. Under Barton's leadership, the Red Cross remained in Johnstown for approximately 5 months, assisting more than 25,000 people with food, shelter, and supplies. And the organization has been here ever since. The Red Cross has been a beacon of hope for those in need during some of the darkest days of their lives. Through each of our world wars, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and wherever our troops are located, The American Red Cross is nearby providing aid and comfort. Red Cross volunteers on the home front create care packages and provide support and comfort to our military families. Weekly, the Keystone chapter sends emergency messages to deployed military personnel regarding family situations. As a combatant commander, you can't imagine how important that is to our troops. Whereas the Keystone chapter responds to an average of 75 disasters annually in the counties served, often this response is to events that don't make headlines in Cambria County. Our Red Cross, with its corps of disaster volunteers, is among the first on the scene, providing food, shelter, clothing, and more. Whereas Cambria County turns to the Keystone chapter for many of the things that make our communities stronger and safer, the organization last year trained nearly 8,000 people in vital preparedness education and thousands of individuals in life-saving CPR, first aid, and AED skills. And whereas in America we may not all look the same, dress the same, or sound the same, we share a common spirit that binds us together when times are tough and unites us in action when someone is suffering. The Red Cross reflects the absolute best in all of us. Now, therefore, the Cambria County Commissioners recognize 2014 as the 125th anniversary of the Keystone Chapter of American Red Cross. We urge all Americans to volunteer their time and give generously to the Keystone Chapter of the American Red Cross. Cambria County is a place where we take care of one another. Signed, the Board of Commissioners, and attested, our Chief Clerk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, County Commissioners, for that proclamation. We have State Senator John Wozniak from Barton. We're going to give a state proclamation.
Hi, everybody. I have one from the Senate of Pennsylvania. We're going to make this dance a little more laws and a little more soft and a harder case, but I wanted to make sure we have this recognition. And it says very similar to what the county commission said. Oh, it's not going to be as lengthy, so it's safe as we paraphrase. But I just wanted, as I see the clouds coming over and the wind blowing, it's almost like Clara's here. So I just want to say thank you to Barton and to the Red Cross. And I think that everybody in this city understands how effective and how important the Red Cross is. And I get excited a lot because during the budget debates, we talk about these liquor stores, we have the Johnstown flood tax. Well, that language never really said anything about Johnstown, but part of that money was used for our reconstruction. But I always take that opportunity to let people know that the interesting piece of history and heritage it was. And just this week, we were talking about how incredible the flood was. It was the largest disaster, or number of deaths, as they said, until 911. And I told the people, my colleagues in the Senate, we were having lunch, it was the first big effort of the Red Cross. And when you think about it, one person can make a difference. And today we're here to honor the Red Cross and Clara Barton. Thank you very much.
All I want to say is I'm proud to be from Johnstown. My great-grandfather was a survivor of the flood at 9 years old. He was in a general store downtown. So, from my perspective, the Red Cross is not just the person who was here when we had the disaster. The Red Cross is about the survivors. I'm here because of them.
Thank you, John. We appreciate it. We're blessed to have Dr. William Lewis, who's the Commissioner of Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission today, to say some words about the Johnstown flood and Clara Barton. Dr. Williams.
It's a real pleasure to be here on behalf of Governor Corbett and my fellow commissioners of the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission. I want to introduce you to the newest of more than 2,500 state historic markers that mark the people, places, and incredible events that make the heritage of our Commonwealth so very rich. What he didn't mention is I have a little secret. Besides being on the State Historical Commission, I was a chapter chair for the Red Cross in the Wyoming Valley. I was a flood victim in 1972. Yes, I'm that old. And I was on the National Board of Governors of the Red Cross for 6 years. And I was also on the National Heritage and Museum Board for the Red Cross. And Clara Barton was my absolute favorite. 125 years ago, a very petite, a very tenacious, and a very tough lady arrived in this town to make a huge difference. And she really did. And the Red Cross continues to make that difference across the country, largely because of what happened here in Johnstown. This was the focal point. This was where the American Red Cross truly gained its national reputation. Richard Burkert from the Heritage Center reminded me today that 9 days, the entire front page of the New York Times was devoted to Johnstown after the flood. That was the kind of pivotal event that brought Clara here to do her work, brought all the attention to the community because of the horrible devastation that happened there. And it brought the reputation that followed with the Red Cross. Now, she was a tough lady. The generals who were here from the military to try and organize are supposedly very fearful of her at the time. She was in control. But her message was, we've got to help the people, we've got to get them back, and when we're done, we're going to move on to the next disaster, which she did in Galveston. She was in her late 60s when she was here. She was in her late 70s when she headed off to malaria-plagued Cuba to help the troops during the Spanish-American War. She was one really tough, really tenacious person, and we're so blessed that she was the founder of the American Red Cross, and Johnstown is blessed because of what she did here. For what all of you do for the Red Cross, thank you so much. Thank you for encouraging the history and heritage here in Johnstown. This is probably one of the greatest educational tools the Commonwealth has, because kids and families will stop and read these. They're all tied in with the, I'll get techie for a minute. There's a GPS app. You can actually find local markers if you get the app, and you can locate where they are. And the ultimate goal, if our wonderful friends from the Senate and the House, who are so very supportive of our commission, years from now do this, we'd love to see little chips in there that can send a signal. So you can be driving along and actually, you can pick up that app and give you the history of this. But, so they're wonderful guys, and we appreciate all your wonderful support. They gave us some really good funding this year. We appreciate that. But thank you all. Thank you, American Red Cross here at the Keystone chapter, and thank all of you for being here today.
Our last speaker is Congressman Keith Rothus. You know, even though he is not here all the time, you'll see Congressman Rothus in town an awful lot. And we appreciated, he made a pledge to us when he became our congressman that he would make a point to be here, support the area, and he's done just that. He was among other with us earlier today. He's here this afternoon. Please, Congressman Rothus.
Thank you. On May 31st, we commemorated the 123rd anniversary of the flood that devastated Johnstown and claimed the lives of 2,209 men, women, and children. Today we honor Clara Barton and the Red Cross workers who traveled to Johnstown to provide assistance after the flood. The International Red Cross was originally founded as a battlefield relief organization. In fact, Clara Barton led some battlefield relief efforts during the Civil War. She had a greater vision for the American Red Cross. She envisioned an organization that would provide peacetime relief efforts characterized by care, comfort, and compassion. Soon after hearing of the flood, Clara traveled with her assistant, Dr. Julian Hubble, and other Red Cross workers by train from Washington, D.C. to Johnstown. They organized relief efforts to distribute food, clothing, and supplies. All told, they distributed more than $5 million worth of goods in today's money. Their legacy extends far beyond providing victims with necessities of life. Red Cross workers found numerous cases of nervous prostration in the most aggregated form, and many cases of temporary insanity. In one of the first recorded instances of providing mental health care after a disaster, Red Cross workers attended to people suffering from the psychological trauma of losing their homes and their loved ones. Clara Barton remained in Johnstown until October 24, 1889. Under her leadership, the Red Cross provided food, supplies, shelter, and other assistance to more than 25,000 people. Clara Barton and the Red Cross were a beacon of hope. An editorial in the Johnstown Daily Tribune, a predecessor to the Tribune Democrat, said it best. The first to come, the last to go. She has indeed been an elder sister to us, nursing, soothing, tending, caring for the stricken ones through a season of distress such as no other people have ever known. Since Clara Barton first arrived in Johnstown 125 years ago today, the Red Cross has provided care, comfort, and compassion when people needed it most, including after the 1936 and 1977 floods. Clara Barton's legacy of service is one that we should all strive to emulate each and every day. Today we come together as a community to dedicate an American Red Cross Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission plaque and storyboard to honor Clara Barton and to commemorate this solemn and historic occasion. This is an occasion to celebrate the solidarity demonstrated by the residents of Johnstown, fellow Pennsylvanians, and fellow Americans like Clara Barton. By working together to help Johnstown recover, and the city still stands as a vital part of America's future. So if we can for a moment, let us join our voices today with the voices of the residents of Johnstown 125 years ago. Thank you, God, for sending us Clara Barton. Thank you, Clara Barton.
So, gentlemen, if you can come over to the placard, I'd like to have everyone grab a friend. We're going to practice all fully in different directions for once. I want to recognize Colleen and her staff, by the way. They're the ones who did all the hard work to get this created and get this monument here. So thanks to the Red Cross staff as well. Visitor comes to Johnstown, be at Thunder Valley or the music festival, we're going to find out exactly the impact that we had on Clara Barton and the impact she had on us. If it weren't for the Johnstown flood, you may not have a Red Cross that exists today. It was her pinnacle, her defining moment here in Johnstown that created the Red Cross. So although it was a disaster, good things did come out of it in the end. So thank you all very much. Take a moment to read the placard, please. I want to thank all the dignitaries who took time out of their day today to show up. Please join us in the Pelagic Pavilion area. We've got food and beverages. Thank you all.